Welcome to the Neurosage Hub Podcast. We are an educational community for those impacted by autism and a place where neuroscience meets compassion and where families, practitioners, and educators come to rethink what is possible. I'm your host, Justin Barton, and today I'm joined by Dr. Jen Dharamaraj, a leading neurodevelopmental chiropractor from Brisbane, Australia, who works with autistic children and whose specialty is getting nonverbal children speaking. Now, she succeeded with this with approximately 40 children and adults, and I'm super excited to sit down with her. In this episode, we're exploring gross motor development through a playful lens, not just as a physical milestone, but as a powerful tool for emotional regulation, sensory integration, and communication in autism. So whether you're a parent, a practitioner, or educator, this conversation will offer practical insights and hopeful strategies. Dr. Jen, why don't you take just a minute and introduce yourself in your own words, and then we'll jump into some questions here with you.
Thank you so much, Justin. I'm very excited to be here. My whole why is because as a pediatric chiropractor, I was seeing lots of these alphabet kids coming in, and I thought chiropractic helped to a certain degree, but there was a better way. So it took me off to a journey to start studying functional neurology, which took me like 3 years. And that gave me a whole bag of tools to help these kids. So I opened up Nurturing Brain Potential in Brisbane, which is separate to the chiropractic business. And in there, we see so many kids and we've seen so many miracles and kids develop their full potential.
That's amazing. And I look forward to getting to know more about maybe some of these miracles and these people that you've worked with and see how that can inspire hope in others who are listening here. But today, we're going to talk about gross motor skills and why that matters in autism. Dr. Jen, when working with autistic children, autistic adults, how do you see gross motor development influencing their ability to regulate, engage, and communicate?
All right, gross motor development is the basis. So that's when we go from a floppy baby to being able to walk at 1 year old. So when I was doing my master's in pediatrics and chiropractic, they were saying, oh, look, if the child's walking by 18 months, that's okay. But when I did functional neurology, it had to be 12 months. So any days or months beyond that, that child is seen as being developmentally delayed. When we look at the history of most of these kids with autism, generally they're all developmentally delayed. So they either walk at 18 months or they're not walking or they bypass crawling. Now, these gross development skills actually are a basis for the cognition to develop, so for our frontal lobe to develop. If you skip any of this developmental milestone, the things in your brain and the way your brain will express itself is massively changed. So if a child's not walking by 12 months, then we see global delay. If a child's not crawling at 6 to 12 months, it's global delay. So what happens in the first year of life? It's survival. So to go from a baby to walking, it's on survival mode. So we have something called primitive reflexes. These are reflexes that help us go from being a helpless baby to walking. So each of these reflex has a specific purpose. So say crawling. Crawling is very much integrated with our asymmetrical tonic neck reflex, with tonic labyrinth reflex, all of these. So these reflexes are associated with gross motor development skills. So if these reflexes haven't gone or what we call integrated and they're still there, they're going to impede that development. So from gross motor to fine motor, you're not going to get all those skills because your gross motor skills are still not developed. If you look at the gait of a child that's got autism and you see the way they walk or run, it's quite clumsy. And usually it's a wide-based gait because they don't feel stable in their own body. Their brain doesn't know where they are in space, so they walk like a duck. If you've seen these kids and their arms go everywhere and they're not coordinated, quite often they can't cross crawl or they can't cross the midline because they still have these reflexes or they have gross motor developmental delay. We need to have a look and assess each of these kids to see where they are in this developmental blueprint, because if they're missing any of these, it's going to lead to detrimental effect on their cortex.
Wow. And it sounds pretty dire in those situations. We don't want to get behind. So often the people that we're going to be talking to and addressing this with are dealing with children who are delayed. We're maybe 5-6 years delayed already at this point. And working on these things can be a chore. And I've heard it said that movement is medicine, especially when it's fun. How do you
Absolutely.
use movement to build trust and co-regulation with these autistic children?
So if you find that a child's missed crawling, then we get them to do like on the mat, we'll do cross crawl, we'll do games, we'll do bear crawling. There's so many things that we do that can help with those. And with each retain reflexes, there's certain exercises that we can do. Like they call the starfish exercises. So we do cross crawl with that one. We do lizards on the floor, reverse lizard. We do happy cat, sad cat when we do the symmetrical tonic neck reflexes. So these are primitive reflexes exercises that can be put into a game. So what we want to do is do like a circuit or something that's fun. If the kids find that they haven't got the vestibular system, get one of those big balls, the BOSU, one of those big giant rollerball things, football things, get them rolling on that. And then you do your cross crawl on them. So you try and make it fun for them. Or there's so many things out there now that they can use as play gym equipment. So you're actually doing exercises, but to the kid, they're just playing. Like balance boards, balance beam. You make it as fun as possible. So then they're doing gross motor development without really realizing. Monkey bars are phenomenal. Like I know they've taken a lot of those away, but just having a little play gym in the backyard, where you're hanging and you're doing ladders, or there is so much out there for parents, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Like it can be from your cheap $2 stores, or like I say to my parents, you just get those pool noodle things. You basically tape them up and that's your balance beam. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can make it fun. You wanted them to be outdoors in the backyard. Get berries, get some rocks from your landscape place. Do a little road with rocks on them. So the kids get on there and they're walking on different textures and different sensory inputs. Get some sand so you can have different types of surfaces that they can walk on without costing a bomb.
This is just things that can be accessed by pretty much anybody anywhere without a huge cost. Let's talk a little. First, I want to take just a second. And you mentioned a whole lot of different exercises. You mentioned bear crawls and lizard crawls and all sorts of different things. In the Neurosage Hub platform, you out there can have access to videos, short 30 to 60-second videos on how to do these things. They're tutorials on how to make this happen. So come check out the Neurosage Hub platform to get more information, get some tutorials on that. Now, Dr. Jen, I want to go to this next question, and there's a long word in here that I'd like to have you define for us first, and then answer the question. Because I understand that gross motor play activates, we talked about the vestibular system, and then this other word, proprioceptive systems. Define that for me first, the proprioceptive systems, and then I'll ask you a question about it.
Okay, so proprioception is basically your brain's ability to know where you are in space. If you have a look at all these kids that come in, as I said, they're clumsy because their brain can't perceive where they are in space. And you see a lot of them are toe walkers. I've had a few clients come in and they said they're scheduled for surgery. And I'm like, surgery? Yeah. And they're like, oh, we're going to cut the calf muscle. But that's not the problem. The problem is actually in the brain and in the brainstem. So if your brain feels like you're falling backwards, to counteract that, you're walking on tippy toes. If you feel like you're falling backwards, what do? You want to propel yourself forward. So tippy toes is that, because your brain can't quite get where you are in space.
Can you explain how these systems impact regulation and sensory processing in autism?
Okay, a lot of the kids that I see are nonverbal. So because they can't feel their bodies, they're stuck in that 2-year-old parallel play. I know when my son went to childcare at 2, he didn't care about anyone else. He didn't want to play with anybody else. And he used to make me upset. But then I realized when I studied developmental neurology, it's because that's the part of the brain. You're getting used to getting cues from your body and how you feel and all of that. So you're not quite aware of the rest of the world. So you don't feel the need to socialize. So these kids are stuck in that 2-year-old body where they're just parallel play. They don't have eye contact. They're not aware of the world. And I say to my parents, it's like they come in and there's a glass wall between them and the world. Because even if they're 5, 6, 7, 8, they're still stuck in that 2-year-old. So you need to feel your body, you need to feel your hands, your feet. So you need internal cues before you start to be aware of external cues. So most of them are still stuck in that are really much in their own body and they're not aware of the outside world.
Thank you for sharing that. So, Dr. Jen, you've talked a lot about talking with the parents, talking with the practitioners and everything, is how to do these things. How do you guide parents, practitioners, educators to join in and not just facilitate these movements, these exercises as a way to co-regulate with the child that they're working with?
I think it's really important that you have to set down what is it that you want from your child? What do you want your child to gain? What is it that you need? So you need to go and give that parent hope and say, look, by doing this, these are not just exercises to tick the boxes. This is your child's brain development. By doing this exercises, you're stimulating the brain to get them to the next level, to get them to their potential. So if we sit down and we go, okay, these are the exercises to do, and you've got them at the Neurosage Hub. If you do these exercises, why are you doing these exercises? It's not just to tick a box. It's basically to get your child's full potential. By doing these exercises, you're stimulating the brain, you're creating networks, and you're allowing that child to build and grow and reach their full potential.
Love that. All right. Another question here for you is, so often, and I can speak from experience here, the progress seems to be very slow and halting at times, and then there will be little jumps. How do we go about celebrating and emphasizing the effort to reframe setbacks as part of the neurodevelopmental journey?
Okay, so all my parents that come in, all they want to do is get the child to speak. But one, you got to feel the body, you got to do that. And generally, when we do a program, there's something called regression. So we warn the parents that if we do a 12-week program between the 4 to 6 weeks mark, if your child didn't go through meltdowns when they're 2, you're going to get massive meltdowns. It doesn't matter whether they're 8 or 9, you're going to get that behavior is going to come by because that is a part of development. What we do when we do our work is we're actually fast-tracking development. So you're going to get your 2-year-old meltdowns in over 2 weeks. So you're going to have kids having kicking and screaming and on the floor doing all of that. Because what happens is, as the brain develops, it lays down pathways. But to get those pathways really fast and efficient, it goes through something called myelination. So what that happens is there's regression. You lay down pathways, then you have a bit of regression because you want to get efficiency, and then you lay down those pathways. So we will see that as regression. So when a child comes in and the parents are going, oh, Jen, their meltdowns are twice as bad. It's really, and I'm going, look, at least you've only got a couple of weeks of that. But that's how your brain develops. We cannot skip any stages. So these supposedly regressions aren't actually regressions. They are a stage that we need to work through. And the thing is to remember the light at the end of the tunnel. What is your focus? What is your hope and dreams for your child? And you know that people going through the meltdowns, if you explain to them this is normal development, it is very unusual to see a meltdown in an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, or 10-year-old. And it's very hard to go out in public when your child's having massive meltdowns. Whereas when a 2-year-old goes out, it's just accepted. It's normal behavior. Even when they're kicking and screaming in the supermarket, people just go, oh yeah, that's just the 2-year-old tantrums. But for these kids, because they're delayed developmentally and they're having these meltdowns later on, that's not to say it's a regression. That's just to say they're moving part through the stages. And you know that's a stage and things are working because you're firing up their networks.
And I think that's so helpful for a parent, a caregiver, an educator to be aware of, hey, we're working on this and we're going to have some meltdowns here most likely in the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because me as a parent, if I have a child who's 7, 8 years old who melts down, my natural response is going to be like, I don't want to do that again. I'm going to back off of that. But in this gross motor development situation here, as we're doing these things, we need to make sure that we press forward through that period. Am I understanding that correct?
Absolutely. And I said to the parents, look, I know it's really difficult, but every meltdown that you have is one less for the future. We keep going. And it's hope. It's focusing at the light at the end of the tunnel. And Like when a child goes to a 2-year-old, you just accept it because that's just part of development. So I think for autistic parents or parents who have kids that are developmental delay, this is just part of the process. And once you accept it, it makes it a lot easier. Once you start counting, that's one meltdown less or whatever regression we see, it's great because we're doing the right work. We're getting there.
Do you have any final thoughts on gross motor development for us today, Dr. Jen?
I think a lot of parents know when their child isn't developing like they should. So that should raise alarm bells. And if you go to health practitioners that are saying that's okay, they'll get there, it's not okay. That's a signal to do something. You don't have to go to all the allied health professionals, but if you find your child's not crawling, how about you get them on the floor and you start to do crawling with them? If they're not happy with doing that, get them on the ball, rolling. I get them rolling on pillows, and then parents get the right leg and the left arm, and then you do cross crawl. And you do it as a game. So they're on the pillow and the parents grab the leg and and if they start to crawl, you grab their legs and you propel them forward. So you know what normal development looks like. And if your child's not doing that, find exercises. Go and have a look at Neurosage Hub. Have a look and see what you can do to help them get past this developmental stage.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Jen. Everybody, gross motor development in autism isn't just about movement. It's about momentum, connection, confidence, about growth. As we've heard today, the playful strategies can unlock regulation, engagement, and joy, even through those times that there may be meltdowns. Well, growth, there's always pain in growth. But I'm grateful. Thank you so much, Dr. Jen, for sharing your insights and for reminding us that every wobble, hop, and crawl is a step towards growth. To get more information on how you also out there can get access to these guided modules and practitioner tools, parent tools, educator tools, visit neurosagehub.com, check out the Neurosage Hub platform, and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much.